Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Farah Asif, and I'm with you again for another amazing episode of Global Woman Insight. Global Woman Insight is putting spotlight on amazing women leaders from across the world and Pakistan, sharing with you their stories, their leadership journeys, their struggles, their challenges, and how they have overcome them over the years. These episodes are the second season of Global Woman Inside, and I started off these seasons, these conversations, so that we can put spotlight on these amazing women who are the torchbearers of amazing work that they've been doing, and breaking the glass ceilings. So in today's program, again, I am with my mentor, my what you can say, somebody I always looked up to, and my we both share one mentor in common, and I have been looking at her as my somebody who I can want to become like, calm, cool, Ambassador Naela Chohan, who has been of Pakistan and represented Pakistan at global stage with her amazing career, amazing leadership, and amazing aura. She is not only an ambassador but also a mother, and apart from that, she is an artist and a wonderful, wonderful human being that I always look up to. So I would like to welcome Ambassador Naela Chohan with me on this stage. Thank you so much, Ambassador Naila, for sharing with us your presence here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Farhat Asif, for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be with you, as always, since you were a young girl till today.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you that you can comment on all of our three streams that we are sharing on the LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course on my Facebook profile. You can look up to Ambassador Naila Chauhan has been recently retired as a special secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan and has a wealth of experience in diplomacy and of course the leadership. And of course over the years, Ambassador Naila has represented Pakistan as ambassador of High Commissioner of Pakistan to Australia, Ambassador of Pakistan to Argentina, and various other important positions at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to look at and shape the foreign policy, drive the foreign policy, and implement those policies at the various states. So today we will talk about her career, but also we'll talk about her background as well and what has led her to be who she is today. So, Ambassador Chauhan, first of all, let me ask you the very early life and work that you've been doing, and you were surrounded by the people who must have inspired you to choose diplomatic career as a career, and who are the people that had made you to choose this profession, which is somehow considered as a male dominated profession?
Yes, Farhat, it's a very important question because no person grows in isolation. And it's the childhood that your character, your personality building takes place. So, first of all, it's my father, may God bless his soul, and my mother. But interesting enough, you would find it amusing that I was the first girl born in my family in three generations. So when I was born, they distributed laddu. You know what laddu is? And laddu is usually distributed when boys are born. So my grandmother was so happy that she had me, that she distributed laddus, and my mother always joked with her that if you had not distributed laddus, she wouldn't have done things that boys do. She would have been a normal girl. So yes, and that was the start. And then because all my other siblings were male, friends, cousins, it were all boys. I was one of the first batch of girls to go to Burnhall School. It was all boys' school. I used to wear necktie, tunic, dress up like boys. So actually, my parents never made us realize gender difference. Uh, I was just as good as the boys in the family. And as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to, the Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman in space. And I was very excited about, a woman going in space. But obviously, to go to outer space, you have to study physics and maths, which was not my forte. But yes, the personality developed like that. And then my father, may God bless his soul, always traveled. We traveled with him. So since childhood, we learned different languages, and that became part of the personality as well. But coming to civil service, that's another story. Uh, as you mentioned, the common mentor, may God bless his soul, Dr. Tahir Amin, a great guy. But basically, I had got scholarship to go to UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara. And I had got this PhD scholarship when I was in my first semester of master's. I was very excited. But my parents, they thought that I was a very little young girl to travel, abroad all by myself. So either you get married or you do CSS. And my Taya Khuda Bakshe, he was our first ambassador to Bangladesh. He was an SES officer. So my father said to Taiji, I'm telling her to do CSS and she's not doing it. And Taiji had big mustache, and he twisted his mustache and said, Oh, putar, ye gal hai, kyun nahi karti? Like Taiji, when you were, civil servants, ICS, Indian Civil Service, having Muslim was a big thing. I said, when you walked, the earth rumbled. But now the civil service is such that when we walk, we are trampled. I don't want to be part of bureaucracy. And then, Parat, my father did a bet with me. We were sitting, we were talking, and there was this newspaper in front of us, which had one grade 17 post in Barani University. And my father said, if you're so proud of your degrees and you're so capable, he used to jokingly call me Sher Putter. He said, my Sher Putter, if you can take this job, I'll salute you and you can do what you like. But if you don't, then you have to take civil service. I was very confident. And Farhat, I took the challenge. I went for this job. When I went there, I was horror struck. It was one grade 17 post, and there were 500 candidates standing outside. Half of them senior, from university, our university, A graders throughout, but had no references, so they weren't getting any jobs. And my heart sank. I said, if I get this job, I'm just, it's a bet that I have to do, but they will still be on the streets.
Yeah.
And if I don't get the job, then I have to do CFS, which I really didn't want to do. So with this dilemma, I went into the interview. The interview was with a panel of 5 people headed by a retired brigadier Saab, very nice person. And they asked me questions, and I was so confident. I answered all the questions. And can you think of my audacity? After the interview, I said, since I've answered all your questions, do I presume I am selected? And they were horror struck. And they looked at me, and the brigadier said, You know, you're too good for this job. You're meant for something better. I said, Thank you so much, but let me be the, decider of what is good for me. And then he thought I was too adamant, said, You have one problem. I was shocked. I said, I problem? Not possible. What is the problem? See, you didn't read the ad carefully. It states with 5 years experience, and you don't even have 1 year experience because you're in university. So how can you be given the job if you don't have any job experience? So I said, well, this is a chicken and egg game. How can you have experience if you don't have a job? And how do you get a job if you don't have any experience? And this is a vicious cycle in which you're throwing the young people, and I see so many out in the streets. They didn't have any answer, but anyway, I knew I wasn't selected. So when I came home, my father was waiting at the gate and said, "Oh, my Sher Putar is back. So shall I salute you?" And I had no answers. And of course, then I took CSS exam unwillingly. But it was interesting. Destiny finds its own path. I was doing my master's, I was doing my CSS simultaneously. One exam in the morning of master's, the other exam in the evening of CSS, and so on and so forth. To a point that when I was going to exam, I wouldn't remember which paper I was going to take. There were so many of them. Uh, but perhaps destiny chooses its path. And I was one of the toppers. So, but when the result came, and the university, how it is, and
Yes.
all the teachers, the wonderful teachers like Rasul Baksh Rais, Iftikhar Malik, Rafiq Afzal, uh, Tahir Amin, Rifat
Yeah.
Hussain, all these delightful, delightful people who were there, and these boys with drums, Naila Chuftai, at that time was Chuftai, and they'll beat the drums and say, "Your result is out." And then they will be quiet. They won't say if I passed or I failed. I hid myself under the library table. I didn't want anybody to find me. But then, Alhamdulillah, I was on the top. But then, you see, that was the time, 1982. It was their regime. They didn't found girls in the foreign service.
Yes. Good.
So the clever thing they were doing was that two batches above, there were no women. In the psychological exam, they would ask girls questions to dissuade them from going into foreign service. So girls would leave under pressure. Even Parveen Shakir, who was my batchmate, changed from foreign service to customs because of the psychological exam. But I was a quite a adamant or stubborn person because firstly I didn't want civil service, so I thought it's a good chance. Foreign service or no service. If they give me foreign service, good. If they don't, I don't need service. I can go to UCSB. But then I thought that two batches senior, they have no girls. If I am not selected, then the doors for women will be closed forever.
Yes.
Because they would say girls come, they leave, and the seats are wasted. So girls should not be given seat.
Yeah.
So, for the sake of posterity, for the sake of younger generation, I then stood my ground and I
Yes.
said, foreign service or no service. You want me? It's all right. If you don't, you should have the courage to say why not.
Yes. Exactly.
And you know how governments are, they don't really say things as clearly.
Yes.
But Alhamdulillah, when I stood my ground, then they didn't stop women from service. I joined, then another colleague joined. And then doors opened, and Alhamdulillah, the first lady foreign secretary came subsequently, who's 2, 3 batches junior. But this wouldn't have happened if I had not stood my grounds at that
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. Ambassador Naila, I mean, when I was listening to your story and the grounds that you stood, I mean, child are raised by the villagers. I mean, the people who are surrounding you, who shape you over the time period, and we are so fortunate enough to have people who are surrounding us to be those resilient women to stand up for us, not only for us but also for the women who are coming behind us. I truly appreciate your work because I've seen you working in the Foreign Office and how you have been dealing with the diplomats surrounding you and people that you're working with. Coming back to the time of your service when you joined, it was a very challenging time. It was, as you said, it was your time. It was a difficult time when you represent your country and going global at that time. And also it was also a challenging time when you are just one or few women there in such a service. So what are the challenges that you faced at those times? because often we see that women on the tables in Pakistan are increasingly not encouraged to be on the tables to find solutions. But you have been a torchbearer among others who have been at that time. And how what are the challenges that you faced, and how you smart I know that you smartly played out, because you are the soft power that I see always, that you how you navigated through. So we would really love to listen to you, that how you smartly played and made those challenges as opportunities.
Yes, thank you so much, Bharat. It's true. So when I joined the Foreign Service, you rightly said Foreign Service was mainly a male-dominated service. Since our independence, we have had women like Rana Liaquat Ali, Shaista Ikramullah, uh, Akhtar, Khurshid Haider, uh, Farida Shah. These were women who were politically appointed women. Women were not taken into civil service. They were, because Rana Liaquat Ali, the kind of background she had, she was not only our first representative to New York, she was also the first woman, Muslim woman in United Nations in 1951. But that was her background. Same goes for others. The first lady who came to foreign service through exam was Fawzia Nasreen
Yes.
in 73. So you can imagine a gap of between 47 and 73.
Yes.
There were not many women. And then most of the women who came before I did, uh, brilliant women, but uh, were more competing with men, had to behave more like men, had to deal with them in that way.
Right.
But when I came, I decided that I should celebrate my femininity
Yes.
and compete in the world as a woman.
Yes.
So I dressed up the way I do. I incidentally got married to a colleague who was 11 years senior to me. So this was the first tandem couple in the foreign service. They didn't have, because most of the women who came before we did were single, because foreign service universally is a service of either divorcees or single people, you know. It's not congenial to family life. But I got married to a colleague. It was an arranged marriage, but he was 11 years senior to me. And I thought, you know, as a woman, I should get married. As a woman, I should have children. So, being pregnant and walking in the corridors of power
Yes.
looked very awkward to all the people. They would say, oh, this woman, this pregnant duck, what is she doing? And they wouldn't take you that seriously.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take you seriously because you were a woman, you know, you were pregnant, you were
Yeah.
this, that, and the other.
Yes.
But I was determined to prove that I can be a woman, I can be a mother, I can be a wife, and I can be a very good officer.
Yes.
So it was a very tough challenge.
Yes.
Um, I would often hear, you know, nasty remarks,
It's like that.
things like that. But that didn't bother me. I had my focus.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, can you believe it, Farhad? I nursed both my children each for 2 years. I would put them in the snuggly, and like both my kids were born in New York. So I would put them in the snuggly. I would go to UN. I had put them in daycare center in New York, in UN. Between, you know, committee meetings, when people would go and have their tea, I would be going and nursing my baby. So it was, you know, no rest time for me.
Yeah. Yes.
But the time I gave to my kids, Alhamdulillah, you mentioned before,
Yeah.
I feel good. I have no regrets.
Yes,
that I
exactly.
did all that.
Yeah,
Of course, it takes a toll on you. It
exactly.
tires you out. It tires your body out. You have, sleepless nights. If a baby is a colicky baby, which mine were, and you're walking them up and down, burping them. And then in the office, you're running, um, like men. Uh,
Yes.
it's very challenging.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone can stop any woman from achieving what she wishes if she's determined to do so.
Yes.
So you really have to be clear
Exactly.
that you want to do it. And once you have decided, then be prepared to make sacrifices. Life without sacrifices is impossible.
It's important.
You have to make your sacrifices. But those sacrifices are very rewarding at the end of the day when you look back and say, yeah, I did it all and I did it my way.
Yes, exactly. And it's such a beautiful way. And you had actually helped me coming to the this question, which always admired and looked at you, that how you manage all the responsibilities, you did your justice in your service, and then at the same time you raised two beautiful genius and smart boys. And especially when you are looking at and you're also discuss about, two diplomats in the house. How was that happening? There were two people who are smart and you're working. Make your marriage work. You also made your manage house, children, and everything was I know that, as you said, duck, but duck is swimming very smoothly on the surface, but under the crunch there is a lot of struggle that you do. So what are those moments, pivotal moments in your life? You said, yes, this is something which is continuously shaping me, which is driving me, and which are like epiphany moments, the aha moments. Wow, this is something amazing that has happened as a mother or as a wife or as an ambassador. So share with us those pivotal, now, when you look back you say, wow, this is something that I really really admire of myself.
Well, uh, those moments are many, to be honest, just as the difficult moments are many. So having, life in New York was very, very challenging, very tiring, because UN is 24/7 job.
Yes, exactly.
The committee meetings keep on going till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes,
And you can't say, oh, I have a baby, I have to go home.
exactly.
You're on the job, you have to do it. And being the junior most third secretary, you have to be the foot soldier, you have to run, you have to receive delegations at the airport at 3 in the morning and things like that. Despite whatever your physical challenges as a pregnant person or as a woman that one has, one had to keep it to oneself and take the challenge, not expect or demand any concessions. So that was very challenging. Then from New York, we were posted to Tehran. And you can imagine from New York to Tehran in 1989, when this, Iran-Iraq war had not completely ended.
Yes,
Missiles were still falling in Tehran, and Saddam had used chemical weapons.
yes,
So these little babies that I had, and I would think, oh my God, why am I punishing them for my decision?
yes,
So it was a very difficult decision,
exactly.
but uh, I took the children there. Iranians are very nice people. They were very hospitable.
Yes,
Again, I had put the daycare center next to my office so that I could dash, go change the diaper, feed them, and then
yeah,
come back
exactly. Yeah,
so that my work doesn't suffer and my children don't suffer.
exactly.
And but it was a radical change. The life in New York was very different from life in Tehran. Uh, to adapt for the children was very difficult. They spoke English like the Americans, and the Iranians didn't like Americans. So they would, like Usman, they would say Amerikai, and it's Pakistani, Amerikai, is not Pakistani. So for children, it was very challenging.
Yes,
But with love, with care, with affection, you help your children
exactly.
to accept the different worlds, different civilizations, different cultures, different religions.
True.
When we were in New York, for example, there would be Christmas, and all the kids would be having Christmas parties and Christmas gifts. And Usman came to me and said, Amma, what do I do in Christmas? I said, you be the Santa. So we would make little gifts and give it to less, privileged children. So he would go and distribute gifts and he would feel very good because sharing and giving and loving is a human character, irrespective of what your religion is. So they would respect the other faith also and enjoy as much that as they do their own faith.
Exactly.
So they became more tolerant, more understanding of other cultures.
Exactly.
Then coming back to Pakistan also, it is a cultural shock
Again.
because in schools here, the situation is very different. But you make them love the country
Of
that
course.
we represented.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
it's part of parenting, and you have to do it patiently
Yeah.
because children do ask questions,
Of course.
and you have to be patient. And then marriage, of course, because I was newly married, so it's a new relationship. It has its own dynamics,
Of course.
and to adjust, to adapt in that also is not easy. But in our culture, you try your best to make a relationship work. And at the end of the day, it has its rewards. It might be challenging in the beginning. Obviously, there are two different people from different orientation put together, and especially in arranged marriage. So it's more complicated.
Yeah.
But my in-laws were very nice, very, loving. So it made that life easier than
Exactly.
many girls who are not that fortunate.
Of course.
Uh, but I think for girls, I would say that you should be with a bigger heart. You know, don't make issues out of little things you can ignore. Ignore them. In life, you have to do a lot of that. Farhad, you know that you're a married woman.
Yeah.
That you have to have a big heart and not make issues. If you become impatient and reactive, no
Exactly.
relationship will work. Even friendships won't work, let alone relationships.
Of course.
So I would say that patience, respect for yourself and
Yes.
for others.
Of course.
You give others that respect,
Yes.
and you get that respect.
Of course.
And you speak kindly to others, people then speak kindly to you.
Of course.
So I think it's give and take.
Indeed.
You can't always take and you can't always give.
Of course.
It's, a cycle which has to be created, and you can take that initiative and just be patient and a lot of prayers.
Of
Prayer
course, yes.
helps,
Of
I tell
course,
you.
yes. This cannot be happening, and especially when you are sharing about children, and the rewarding work that you have been doing. And looking at you, I think the both sons, they understand that how women in the world, they are playing their role, making the homes and offices work. And I hope that they're grown like that as well. Another question is that, as we have shared that we share one mentor in common, in our academic circle, in our academic life. Ambassador Naila, when you were in a professional field, there were many people as mentors and somebody who had helped you throughout your career. There are many people, of course, and I would like to know who were those people as mentors who had helped you, and shaped you as an ambassador, as a high commissioner of Pakistan, and shaped you throughout your journey. And you are continuously learning, of course, and you need mentors in your life. Otherwise, it is just a boat that is sailing in the sea without any aims or guidance. So, who are those mentors that are pivotal and you always admire them in your life?
Well, to be honest, as I said first, it was my father who was my mentor. Then I had wonderful teachers throughout my career who were, I mean, schooling, I would say,
Yes,
like Tahir Amin,
of course.
they were great people. But in profession, because one was in women, it was a male dominated culture.
But
Uh,
yes,
Mentorship to women didn't come that easily.
yes,
Uh, and I think that was a missing link, uh, which still is there, which is still there. Now there is more senior women mentoring junior colleagues than there were when we were, young officers. That was a missing link, definitely. And men, they mentor men. They don't mentor women as much,
yes,
unfortunately.
yes,
So that's why it was groping through dark, I would say, when we were younger people. Um, I I don't think one could give anyone that credit, except that the family support and the teachers I had. But that was over once you joined service. Then it's different. Uh, in service, one took all the challenges alone, most of the time alone.
yeah,
But then one realized that this mentorship system should be installed. It is imperative. So I, as a senior, you know, ambassador, would help my younger colleagues, male and female both,
yes,
but more female because they needed more than men because men have more possibilities.
yes.
But yes, it's an important part in our culture, which isn't that much prevalent as it is in other cultures.
Yeah, I think that you are very right, and especially as I shared with you about International Women's Forum, which is a very important platform for young people or for the career people, for example, especially women, to help them have the tools. Either they are in the public service, for example, in diplomacy or in any other service, in bureaucracy or in the private sector, to have the tools of the leadership that they can use to build teams in there, and of course to have the teams working in both sides, to learn the leadership, which is very amazing. It is now growing, and I think that my of course when I pitched the legacy project is one of the aim is to build that network of women to have mentors, for example, like yourself, and of course the young people who are coming, so that we can have the tools to do better. And I think that it must have been taken longer time for you to do the work that you could have been doing much easier when you have the mentors around. And I think that exactly.
Yeah, you remember when you came to me because Tyramine asked me to mentor you.
Yeah, exactly. And I went to your office and stick with you like anything. I said I will not be leaving this office because I regularly get this chai and biscuit all the time by sitting and taking out all those all those library text. Sitting in your office was a soothing experience.
Thank you. But it didn't take me longer, but it was more painful, I would say, because, it was more arduous. But one succeeded.
Yes.
One succeeded, and Alhamdulillah, like, I can tell you when this Iraq-Kuwait war went on, a lot of Pakistanis had to leave Kuwait in emergency and they went via Iran back to Pakistan. So they were coming in a destitute and desperate situation. And we had opened a camp office at the border between Iraq and Iran, and the embassy. We had cleared the garage, the downstairs, and we had brought mattresses from our homes and made places for those who were coming in a destitute condition. And in that process, we were working 24/7. And there came a family, and the woman there was in her family way. She was in her, final phase of uh,
Pregnancy.
pregnancy. So suddenly she started getting labor pain. So we brought her down and we arrested her. And at that time, our ambassador there was Shamshad Ahmed. And he said, Naila, this is 3 o'clock in the morning. We can't get a doctor. You have to deliver the baby. I said, what?
What?
Deliver a
Oh
baby?
my goodness.
He said,
Oh
yes.
my God.
The men can't do it. You, as a female officer, have to do that. And I said, well, I'm an officer just like any other officer. Why am I to do more than the men? But looking at the condition of that woman, I tried to help her. And Alhamdulillah, she had a lovely little girl. And the family went back. And then she wrote me a letter that she named the girl after me.
Oh, mashallah. Wow. Yeah, I was about to ask some great achievements because I would not like to or mention all those great achievements myself, but I would like to hear it from you. So this is one of the pivotal moment, the achievement moment in your life when you are getting out of your ordinary, get extraordinary and work like that. So what are the various achievements that you would like to share with us, especially when you are heading such important positions in different parts of the world?
Well, 40 years is a long period to enumerate all, Alhamdulillah, things that one did. Uh, Whether I was the first director for Central Asian republics. That was a division established in the Foreign Office in 1993 when these republics had become independent. And I had just come back from Tehran, so I had learned Farsi. And in Tajikistan, there was instability. Inter-Tajik peace talks were going on, and Pakistan was helping to establish peace in that country. So the two sides would come to Islamabad to Foreign Office, and Sardar Asif, God bless his soul, was our foreign minister. He was very passionate about Central Asia. So the delegations were there, and I was with Sardar Asif because I was the director for Central Asia. And they were talking amongst themselves that we couldn't understand. So Sardar Sahib said, Naila, what are they talking about? And I said, sir, I think they're speaking in Russian. And then suddenly I heard they are speaking in Farsi also because Tajikistan is Farsavin. Uh, so I asked him, Shuma Farsi Palati, do you speak Farsi? They said, yes, good, I can help here. So whatever Sardar Sahib had to say, then I started translating that,
Translating. Exactly.
and I helped, in that process. So Alhamdulillah, firstly, the peace prevailed in Tajikistan, and I feel happy that I was part of that team that contributed to it. Number one. Number two, after the Tajik talks were over, I said to my husband, I said, since I could translate Farsi, I might as well go and take interpretership exam. And he said, no, 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 you don't do that. I said, why? He said, you'll fail and everybody will say, oh, nalaik biwi ka khamad ja raha hai. I said, Chauhan sir, Nobody will ever say that to you. I can assure you that. फिर तो I took it as a challenge कि नहीं फारसी का इम्तिहान देना. So I think I'm the only foreign service officer who has done interpretership in Farsi. There are many Farsi speaking officers, but I have done interpretership exam just to prove that
Can do
him
it.
wrong. Nalaik bhi nahi. And the best part is that the government gave me $400 as award
As
for having passed this exam. It was, beyond my necessary routine duty. That's why.
exactly.
So that was great. And then when I became Director General Disarmament,
Yeah.
I was the first female and civilian to be made head of the Authority on Implementation of Chemical Weapons Convention. So that was a big task, and I was working with, all our relevant organizations. And Pakistan is not a chemical weapon state, but we
Yes.
do import chemicals that can be for dual use, like ammonia, chlorine for your fertilizers, for your textile dyes, and all that. So we have about 11 or 12 declared industry which import these chemicals. So, as head of the national authority, I decided to inspect them and see how they are complying with the convention.
Of course.
Not everybody does that. People like to sit in their offices and just sign the papers that come. But I
Exactly.
said, no, I have to see if this paper tallies with what is on the ground. So I traveled to Ghotki and to remote areas in Sindh and Balochistan, traveled all by myself, went to those places, and I asked them to give me presentation of how they are maintaining, the chemicals. So they would, we are very good at giving presentations. They would give such impressive presentations. And then when I would go and inspect the place, now in the presentation, they would show these people with all the masks and gloves and this, that, and the other. But when I would go to factory, they would only have their underwears, not even the slippers. So I said, what are you doing? This is a lie. Don't
Yes.
give presentations which are a lie.
Yes.
Give presentation which is truthful, because when the inspectors from The Hague will come and they will see your presentation and they'll see the ground, the gap will take away your credibility.
Exactly.
So I mentored them to improve their situation of how to store their chemicals so that they don't fall in wrong hands, that they are not used for other purposes. And then I thought to myself, I said, God forbid if there's any incident, the first news you get is either from BBC or CNN.
Yes.
Uh, and then you say, oh, what has happened? And then you go and check what has happened.
Yes.
I don't want to do that.
Yes.
I want to be directly in link with my industries, that they tell me if there has been an issue.
Yes.
So, General Kidwai, fantastic person. I spoke to him. He said, yes, that's a great idea, Naida.
Okay.
So, connected all the industries on WAN, WAN system, and with the authority that we were, that
Understood.
we are the first responders.
Of course.
So when we did that, and that was placed in the report that was presented to The Hague, Pakistan was the first country to have done so. So we got standing ovation on that.
Wow.
But I had already left Pakistan. But General Kidwai was graceful enough to say, Ambassador, it was your work that got Pakistan standing ovation. My own people didn't write to me and say, Naira, you did a great job. It was General Kidwai who wrote to me and said,
Really.
Naira, you did a great job.
Right.
So I felt good that I did something which not only enhanced the security, but
Of course.
also brought good name to the country.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that was there. Then, I mean, I'm talking about, there's so much to go through.
Of course.
Then in Argentina, I was also ambassador to 5 other countries. I got Pakistan observership with Aladi, which is Association of Latin American Development and Integration Organization. It's of 34 member countries. We were not member. We were looking more at Mercosur because Mercosur had 4 countries and it was a trade bloc, like you have BRICS. So Mercosur was like that. Mercosur, we were trying to be observers, but here I got Pakistan observership. That meant that we had access to 34 Latin American countries as observer into their trade, into their development, integration. So I felt good. Then, as a Qaidian, I got Pakistan, the Area Studies Center uh, that you know of, connected to the oldest institute of Oriental Studies in El Salvador University. I linked them together that we can have exchange of teachers and students, which I'm following up now because these papers somehow go into some files and people forget about it.
Yes,
There's no
yes.
institutional memory. So with
True.
Argentina Embassy and Area Studies Center and the Vice Chancellor trying to revive it, that there should be better exchange of academia and of students to better understand. That's a wonderful part of the planet that somehow we don't look at very much. Then when I came back, I was, additional foreign secretary for Middle East and Africa. So I drafted the Look Africa policy, which later on they made, in 2017, but I did it in 2013, 2014. The Foreign Office did it. And that, according to that policy implementation, uh, late President Mamnoon Hussein Khudabakshe went to the funeral of Nelson Mandela in South Africa, and he had stopovers in other countries also, like Kenya, Nigeria. So it was the first VVIP visit at that level from Pakistan side in a very long time. So when you are working in these areas in Central Asia and Africa, so you are cognizant that I was also the drafter of the Central Asia policy because I was the first director. I drafted that policy. Uh, Alhamdulillah, many things that one did. And then Look at Africa policy then became Engage Africa policy. And then when I was in Australia, I was also accredited to other countries of Pacific Islands. I got Pakistan observership in Pacific Island Forum. I established Pakistan's diplomatic relations with Solomon Islands and with Vanuatu, which didn't exist before. And I established the Consulate General in Melbourne because there were so many Pakistanis there in Melbourne, and Canberra is about 18 hours drive. So
Yeah.
it's very tiring. People with small children driving that long. So I said, no, we should have a Consulate General in Melbourne. So Alhamdulillah, I succeeded in doing that. So in 40 years, Farah,
It
there's so
is
much to
long.
talk
It's
about.
so much to do. I mean, daily it's an achievement, and I was looking at you, and your face is shining bright with pride, of course, which is at the same time my heart is swelling because of the work that you phenomenal work, and Western Isla, the work that you've been doing is like creating paths for people to, for example, like developing the Central Asia policy, Africa policy, and then national authority on the chemical weapons, and many other things that you had done is like, creating a path for people. So I mean, these are some of the most inspirational times that I've looked at you, and over the time periods, being looking at you and seeing that. One of the things that I really want to, because we are just coming into end of our conversations, and I would not like to end this because this is something very inspiration for all of us who are aspiring. Because recently, the CSX exams has also been, results have been announced, and there are many women who had been chosen the foreign services as their choices. So, what I would really like to ask you, as a mentor for all of us, what are your advice for people in this generation in the year 2024, when there's a lot of easy tools and people who are handy, who are available to us, and we can, and borders are no longer borders. We can utilize the technology to reach out to people. What are your advice for all of us, looking at you as our mentor, especially having the backgrounds of international relations or peace or conflict studies or the disciplines that are related to this big discipline? What are your advice for all of us?
Well, my first advice would be that have faith in yourself. Women, I usually find, lack that confidence. We waste a lot of time thinking, can I do it? Can I not do it? Look at boys. I would look at my male colleagues when I was a young officer, that so much low in the position, and if there was
Yes,
any opportunity, they would just grab it. They
yes,
wouldn't think twice. We would think 100 times before saying
yeah,
yes or no, and we would lose that opportunity.
true,
Uh, have faith in yourself. If you think it's something important, take the opportunity. We women miss a lot of opportunities.
true,
So, firstly, have faith in yourself. Then, uh, don't try to play the female card. If you're in a competition, you are a human being, a citizen of the state. You are as competitive and you have come in a merit. That itself proves that irrespective of your gender, you have made it.
yes,
So make it work for further. When you start playing female card, you actually hurt yourself and other women who are competitive, you know. So be professional. Like when you asked about my husband and myself, we were the first tandem couple. So we were the trendsetters. And the first thing we did was that we took a policy decision that we will not discuss home in the office and we will not discuss office at home. So if I had to discuss anything official with him, I would seek appointment from his secretary to go to his office. I wouldn't just barge into his office and sit there and have a cup of tea. I
true,
never did that. Neither would he come to my office just like that and have a cup of tea with me. Colleagues do that. But in this relationship, we ensured that we don't do it. That helped maintain the discipline in the office, in the embassy, wherever we were. And we could be professional. And then we ensured that, we respect each other's position. So I would not interfere into his office of who's coming in, kaun aayi, kaun gayi, nothing of that sort. Job, yeah, it is his office. He has to manage it, and I manage my own office. So be professional. You're capable. You're smart. In younger generation, mashallah, you're much smarter than people like us who didn't have the same opportunities.
yes,
So you have that advantage. Use it as an advantage. And here I would also like to bring in my art. I use my art as a soft power. Bharat, I used it as, like when I did this exhibition in Canada, the newspapers made headline, The Art of Diplomacy. Because through that, I was addressing, because when I was in New York, UN, I was dealing with the third committee, dealing with human rights, women's issues,
exactly,
and people would always, it was funny when it is a Muslim country presenting its report, whether it's a CEDAW report or any other report, the conclusion would be because it's a Muslim country, these are the problems. But if the same
yes,
problems were in a non Muslim country, it would be taken as an individual issue. But here,
yes,
the representation is of a religious issue. So,
yeah,
to challenge that, I used my art and I said these are universal issues. These are
exactly,
social and humanitarian issues. It's not about Islam or Christianity or any other faith. It is about human societies, how they have evolved and how they deal with each other, men and women. And these should be dealt with as humanitarian issues, as social issues. So my art speaks of that to create that universality. So I don't sell my art, but I do auction one painting to a charity working in that direction. So in Australia, they have a very serious domestic violence issue.
Yes.
So I did a painting and I entitled it Betrayal of Love,
Yes.
because domestic violence is basically betrayal of love, whether it's between husband and wife, or parent or child, or child and parent, whatever. These are relationships of love which are betrayed, and that's how this domestic violence takes place. Um and this was auctioned. The proceeds and the painting went to the Australian of the Year, the then, 2014 or 2015 it was. Her name was Rosie Betty. She was a victim of domestic violence. And then she started a movement there to create awareness, because before that, in Australia, they would never accept that domestic violence was an issue for them. But it's a very serious issue.
Exactly.
So I shared, I contributed monetarily, but also to show that these are humanitarian issues. Finger
Exactly.
pointing marginalizes the issue. If
True.
we are serious about solving, we have to hold each other's hand and walk together to make this world a better place. And that's what my art was about.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much, Ambassador Naila, for sharing with us not only about your artwork and your inspiration that you had made a substantial contribution not only for your country but for others as well to, raise awareness about these important issues. But you have also made substantial contribution in helping us to look at you as a woman leader who has mm, made paths, break paths, and destruct paths as a rebellion, which I love about you. As I mean, amazing to see you that how you navigated all those challenges with your intelligence, with your insight, with your sabr, which is also a patience that we say. And thank you so much for sharing with all of us the advice of considering each one of us as humans and considering each one of us respecting each other so that we can make this world better place as women, as mothers, as men, as dads, brothers and sisters across the world. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll coming again next week with amazing woman and Ambassador Naila, please stay with us. And before we'll say sign off to everyone, please continue commenting on the similar chat. Ambassador Naila is tagged here, and you can and she will be kindly responding to all of those questions if you have, and I'll be sharing with all of you whatever this next episode will be coming. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend and enjoy yourself. Thank you so much, Ambassador Naila, for being with us, for being an inspiration always to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.